What's going on? Hello, Mike. Hello, hello, hello. What is going on, guys? I am here for 1 hour only. So this is what I need you to do. I need you to share out the live. Let's smash these gift goals, for God's sakes, and get this live going here. I'm here for an hour. I'm telling you why. We are getting the dogs. Whoop, look up, Penny. We're getting the dogs' nails trimmed, and I got Costco in my near future. I've got a bunch of things in my near future. So, and I promise my family I'm going to be much better on time constraints and parameters because I spend way too much time on this app. One way you can help me spend more time on this app is by donating to the Vimo. My Vimo is Radio Spencer, giving gifts, supporting the live, following, sharing, all that good stuff. That shows you are interested in what I'm saying, and it shows that you want me to be here. But time is money, folks, and I'm not going to... People say, why don't you spend more time on TikTok doing lives? Because I'm not gonna spend 4 hours of my life on here to make 13 cents. I'm being honest. So hop on in if you're 18 or over and want to jump into the guest request box. Please do. I have some notes here because I'm not at my computer. I usually have my spreadsheets and my Word documents and everything with ideas that have come to me over the years. And the older I get, the harder it is to remember these things. So I write them down. I write everything down now, or else I don't remember them. Only topic we're going to discuss today is sin isn't real. Prove me wrong. My basic argument, and I have a ton of arguments, but my basic primary one is sin doesn't exist outside of a God concept any more than hobbits exist outside of the Lord of the Rings concept. Hobbits, as far as I know, I could be wrong. They might exist in other fairy tales and lore and stories, but I think Tolkien, I don't know, did he invent hobbits? I don't know. Like, were hobbits a thing before Tolkien? I don't know. Let's say Jedis. Jedis were never a thing before George Lucas created them, right? So let's use that example because I know that for sure. I'm a huge Star Wars junkie. So it would be like saying C-3PO. C-3PO only exists in the world of Star Wars. You take away Star Wars, C-3PO ceases to exist. It's the same thing with sin. Sin only exists within the constraints and restraints and within the boundaries of a God concept. You take out a God concept. Like if there's another planet out there somewhere and they don't have a God concept, they wouldn't have a sin concept. Even if they were able to communicate the same way we do with each other, they would not be able to demonstrate a sin concept without God, at least not by our definition. Our definition, and you can look it up, is basically transgressing against a God. Hey, Caroline, good to see you. Transgressing against a God. If there is no God, there is no sin. There's no way to commit sin, right? It's like saying you can have vehicular crimes without vehicles. You can't have a vehicular crime without a vehicle. One presupposes the other. You can't say, thanks for all the gifts, guys. Thank you. This makes me happy. And again, if you want to see me more often, the Vimo is just ripe for the picking, or for the donating. It's Radio Spencer. It's my Vimo. I've gotten as little as $1 on there. I've gotten as much as $20. And it really, really does help me because it's easier for me to support being on TikTok when you guys help support the live creators out, okay? So let's go to the first caller here, see if we can have, I really want to have a peaceful conversation. One of the prerequisites, by the way, is I told my wife and daughter that I would not be yelling. I don't want to yell, okay? I don't want to yell. I don't want to get agitated. There's no reason to get agitated. Christians come unhinged on my lives. They come unhinged because they know I'm right on these things. They know they can't really defeat my arguments, and they get really upset about it, and they get crazy, to be honest with you. So let's try not to get too crazy today. Let's go to Go Smooth. Joe, are you at least 18 for TikTok purposes?
Age of 18.
Are you at least 18?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Prove me wrong. I say sin is not real.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And what you said a second ago, your explanation, it's this God means to pour, to call, or to invoke into. And that's what God means to begin with. So with that being said, like, most people's gods, they're named gods. This idea that their god is Almighty Most High, that's just an egregore at the end of the day, bottom line. It's a non physical thought form or entity that arose from a group's collective beliefs, emotions, and intentions. And it affects those who create that, like egregore.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah,
And
exactly right. So when you
this idea, like, and just like morality, it's just the majority consensus of what people agree to be right or wrong to begin with. It's not, there's no bottom baseline truth, like this is what's good, that's what's bad, because at the
right.
end of the day we live in a fish eat bigger fish type of world. Like, if a
Yeah,
lion comes
exactly. And
along and sees you,
people don't like hearing that, right, Johnny Knoxville? People don't like hearing that. But it's ultimately the truth. There is no. What's interesting is like morality and sin. Here's an example. How old are you, by the way? Because you're pretty brilliant. I think I like the way your mind thinks, and you sound young. I know you're younger than I am, but how old are you,
I'm
Joe? How old are you?
19.
Wow. I'm not trying to like blow smoke, and blow smoke, but you sound so intelligent to me. I wish more people your age thought this way because I'm pretty impressed already with the first caller here. So let's give W's to Joe first of all. But like Joe, here's an example. Like sin, like if we only had animals on the planet, there'd be no concept of sin at all. Like a lion tearing apart a gazelle is not committing a sin. It's just nature. It's just what exists in
Yeah,
nature.
exactly.
And to
If you,
you
and
know,
this idea of ownership is just, it's just non-existent. It's just that an idea to begin with. You don't own shit. Try telling a lion that you own this section of land and that this lion
right?
can't. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
you're not gonna be able to communicate that to Mother Nature that you own. Like, you don't own shit. You don't own, like, people trying to, this whole idea of ownership and entitlement. It's really worthless. It has no value to nature.
yeah. Well,
It's literally just separating us rather than harmonizing us with our environment. We're
man,
basically
yeah,
putting rubber
sure.
a big old rubber suit on and saying everything stay away from me. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Hey Joe, come back again, okay? I appreciate. I'm looking for some ops here, but you are you're. If we don't take another caller like all day, you're still going to be the best one. I think you're the one to beat here. I appreciate you very much. W's for Joe. W's for Joe. Wow. And for the person here who says stop listening to people on Talk Talk. I don't know what Talk Talk is. I think you mean TikTok with a camera. You mean like you? You're my number two gifter. What does this mean? I don't understand. Why are you my number two gifter and why are you watching me when you are screaming in capital letters, stop listening to people on TikTok with a camera? I'm assuming you're implying me. Do not listen to him. Is he an unhinged Christian? I'm just wondering, is he an unhinged Christian, this guy? Ravel, AD Ravel, is my number two gifter. He's giving me gifts. He's helping make me 13 cents today on TikTok by giving me gifts, and he's helping me in the algorithm. So he's actually, by commenting in the chat how much he dislikes me, and by giving me gifts, he's actually pushing me out into the algorithm so that more people listen to me. So I'm just going to leave him in there. I'm not going to block him or mute him. If he wants, unless he gets totally crazy, I'm going to leave him in here. Callie, good to see you, Mother of Heretics. Thanks for being in here. Thanks for all the gifts, guys. You're making me feel good here. So our first caller was a friendly, and a 19-year-old friendly who has more brain power than most adults. I was really impressed with that kid. I shouldn't say kid. I have children, and I say kids like in a friendly, kind of colloquial manner. I'm not trying to belittle you that you're a kid. Zero Odinson, Caroline, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, you're right. Engagement is engagement. So I always find it curious. Like I would never go into a Christian's live, and if I found what they said abhorrent, I would never tap the screen for them. I actually feel guilty. Sometimes I'll accidentally tap it when I'm in a conversation that I don't support. I'll tap it. I go, oh, I wish I could take that heart back. So the fact that someone doesn't like me and gives me hearts and gives me gifts and helps put money in my pocket and helps push me out into the algorithm so that more people can find me, That's fine with me. That's okay. So sin isn't real. Prove me wrong. Accidentally tapping or gifting a rose. Yeah, I will do that sometimes because I'm a big gifter when I have the funds to do it. I don't always have the funds to do it. I like being generous on TikTok, and I think the generosity comes back. But I'll be honest with you, life's expensive right now. I keep waiting for all of the prices to come down that we keep hearing about. They're not coming down in my neck of the woods, I'll tell you that much. No Christian needs to prove you wrong. From the poor Christian. Okay, why are you in this chat? Why do Christians do this to themselves? Why do they aggravate themselves? Instead of pressing the little two people at the bottom of the screen to come up and join me, just have a friendly conversation. By the way, I sell these on my TikTok shop, so I hope they sound good. This is my kooky home microphone. I'm unplugged, as you can see. I'm in bed. And I got all the dogs sleeping with me here. My wife's doing some studying in the other room, and the dogs drive her nuts. I'll be in my office, in my studio, and the dogs won't bug me. They'll bug her. So I go, I'll do an unplugged video once in a while. I kind of like it. I'm holding the phone with my hand, so I'm building my forearms a little bit because I have an old iPhone, and it's kind of heavy compared to today's iPhones. So I'm having a good time here. But I do have to leave roughly in 45 minutes because we have somebody coming to the house, and I need to be prepared for them. I'm not upset or anything. I just came in. Okay. I like the headboard. Thank you. Yeah, I think we got this at like Cost Plus World Market or something. I love it. What is your definition of sin? Without looking at the dictionary, I would argue that the main definition of sin is a transgression against divinity. Divinity meaning, in this case, like a deity, a god. A sin is a transgression against a god. It's going against God's will, God's commandments, God's teachings. I guess that would be a sin. So, in other words, if I go 85 miles an hour in a school zone, if you believe in God, you would say I'm endangering people, so therefore I'm sinning against God, maybe, right? But if you're not religious, you would say I'm breaking the law. If I'm going 85 in a school zone, I am breaking the law. I don't care what state you live in. There's no 85 mile an hour speed limit in a school zone anywhere, probably in the world. So that would be breaking the law pretty much universally. We could agree that going 85 into 25 or whatever in a school zone is breaking the law. Where you run into trouble is if you say, oh, that's sinful, right? Like if a cop pulls me over, which I would expect him or her to do if I'm speeding like that, they're not going to pull me over. I'm not going to roll my window down and say, oh, what sin did I commit, officer? What sin did you pull me over for? They're pulling me over for a crime I've committed, not a transgression against God. Okay. So a sin has to be, when you get down to like the secondary definitions of sin, it becomes sillier. Like, oh, that ice cream sundae at Joe's ice cream parlor is so sinful. That thing puts 1,000 calories on my hips before I even taste it. That's so sinful. So there's kind of the dumbed down definition of sin. But what we're talking about here clearly with the fire and the brimstone is sin meaning going against what God wants you to do. Like if God says, don't turn left at the next corner, it's a sin. And you turn left at the next corner, it's a sin because God says so. But there is no God clearly saying these things. You can't quote the Bible on me. You can't quote your religious texts. You can't validate that those were the words of God. You can't validate any of this stuff. And that's the problem with sin. It's the problem with religion is you are taking the word of people who lived in a society that had a 95% illiteracy rate, people that didn't understand how their bodies worked, let alone the stars and the planets and the cosmos. They had no understanding of germs. They had no understanding of what a heart murmur was. They had no understanding of mental illness. They had no understanding of medicine. They had no understanding of anything. All right, I'm back. Back. I have to get when the bat phone calls, I have to answer it. And the bat phone in this case is work. So I got some overtime, but not for today, so I don't have to run yet. I do have to run in about 35, 40 minutes because we have somebody coming to the house, and I do have to be there for them. So we're going to go a little bit long. And if you guys, honestly, if you guys donate to the Venmo, if you guys keep the gifts coming, I might come back again tonight, right? My main obstacle is I have to justify, not only to myself, but to my family, that the time I spend on here has some dividends. I'm a capitalist. I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. Sorry. As much as I despise capitalism sometimes, I have to pay my mortgage, and I have to pay my groceries, and I have to put gas in my car. And if I sit here like a lazy oaf for like 9 hours on TikTok just doing nothing but blabbing, and I look at the end of the day and I've made 13 cents, I'm a fucking idiot. I'm not going to give you 9 hours of my time for 13 cents. I won't give you an hour of my time for 13 cents. So if you want me to come back, show a little love, show a little gratitude. The Venmo is up, Radio Spencer, and also the gifts help here as well. All right? I appreciate it. Let me go back to some of the comments, and we're going to get a caller here. Didn't mean to stay, just wanted to leave a nice comment. Not all who say they are Christians are. This is an argument I hear a lot, not to digress, but I want to address what the poor Christian said. Not all who say they are Christians are. I hear this a lot from Christians. They want to kind of pass over Christians who are doing things that are not Christ-like. And my argument is, and I was a former Christian of 40 years, by the way. I didn't make that clear yet, I don't think. I was a Christian for 40 years. The thing I find really fascinating is Christians want to disassociate themselves from Christians that they think are not Christ-like. So when you point out that the Triple K is made up almost like 100% Christian, they say those aren't real Christians, right? The Triple K, the white little pointy hats, burning crosses on people's lawns. Those aren't the real Christians. Okay, so all the people who are supporting ICE and throwing immigrants down on concrete floors at Walmart and arresting people in front of their children at daycare. Oh, they're not really Christians. Jesus would be, he'd be disgusted by their actions. They're not really Christians. So you take out all the Christians in the Triple K, they're not real Christians. All the Christians who support Donald Trump, they're not real Christians, presumably. He got elected by Christian nationalists to be a Christian nationalist leader, and yet they're not really Christians, right? Christians who, like all these pastors, like one a day, it seems. They're being arrested for diddling with people they shouldn't be diddling with. They're not really Christians, right? These pastors that they essay children and stuff. They're not really Christians. So let's wipe them out. All the pastors that have like Lear jets and 50 Rolls Royces, they're not really Christians. So let's eliminate them. So who's left? Like, what Christians are left is the point. Like, what Christian? Like, if you eliminate all the Christians who are doing bad things in the world, and you say they're not really Christians, then who's left? There's going to be like 14 people in heaven. 14 people in heaven. All right, let's go to Uncle Jay. Uncle Jay, I just need you to be at least 18 years of age. Uh-oh. Uncle Jay dropped off. If you come back, I'll get you on here. David says sin is real. Follow the prompt. Prove me wrong. It's not okay to just yap in the chat that sin is real. You have to demonstrate. That is a claim. I need your evidence. What is your evidence that sin is real? My brain works logically. So here's how my logical brain works. Sin is predicated on a God being real. You can't prove your God being real. Therefore, sin is not real. Until you can prove to me that the Shire is real, hobbits aren't real. You get me? Until you can prove to me that Sauron is real, then Mordor and all this stuff just falls apart. Until you can prove to me that Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader are real, you can't prove to me the Force, right? You can't prove things. You make a lot of claims. You can make a lot of claims. It doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean they're truthful. If you need a book to tell you to be a good person, you need more than that book. Absolutely. Absolutely. Who told them the crime was wrong? Okay, this is an interesting one. Human, citizen, man, guy, person. Who told them the crime was wrong? Crimes are defined by human beings. There are no crimes in the animal kingdom at large. Again, I told you, like a lion eating a gazelle. If they define things the way we define them, the gazelle would certainly see it as a crime that they're sitting there at the watering hole minding their own business and a lion comes up behind them and tears them to shreds while they're alive, right? They would consider that a crime. But animals don't do that. When we have dogs, I have three of them on the bed here with me. If one of them takes the other's bone or takes the other's toy, it's not a crime, right? But if I took your bone away from you, that would be stealing. So in the human world, if I take something that belongs to you, it's considered stealing if you haven't given me permission to borrow it or to bring it back later or something, right? It's stealing. We have laws against stealing. But in the animal kingdom, like if one dog, like if my yellow lab takes the English setter's bones away from them, the dogs aren't calling the doggy police and saying, this dog stole my bone, please come and arrest him. There's no such concept. So we define what is wrong based on empathy, based on safety, public safety. We define speeding through a school zone is wrong, not because a God had to tell us that driving 95 miles an hour while children are present is not a good idea. We developed that over the years because we know that when you're in an area with small, helpless people, little mini humans running around, that it's a good idea to keep your speeds low so that you don't run them over. That's where that comes from. So we don't need a God to define morality. We don't need a God to define right or wrong. Human beings over the course of thousands of years, millions of years, come up with these things on their own. They realize that for an optimal society, you can't take a sledgehammer and bonk your neighbors over the head while they're sleeping, because then you're going to have to sleep with one eye open, because you're now defining a world where it's okay to bonk somebody over the head with a sledgehammer in the middle of the night, and chances are it's going to happen to you one night, and you don't want it to happen to you one night. So a civil society will not last very long, because what will happen is the village will all bonk each other over the head with a sledgehammer in the middle of the night. There won't be any villagers left, and they'll go extinct. So it is not a sane characteristic of a human tribe or village or society or whatever to have a society where people live bonking each other over the head in large numbers, because that eliminates everybody in the village. It eliminates the tax base. It eliminates harmony. It eliminates the guy at the store selling you bananas because he's now been bonked over the head by a sledgehammer last night. So he's not there at the store today to sell you bananas. So the whole society crumbles. And that's why we come up with these rules and regulations and laws. It's not because of God. It's because human beings have to formulate a way in order to interact with each other without eating each other. That's what this is all about. All right, let's go to Deathless Light. You are on. Are you at least 18 for TikTok purposes? See if we connect here.
Sure, I am.
Okay, I am. Awesome. So are you under the belief that sin is real?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I love it. So I've thought about this for a long time. I was a Christian for 40 years. I believed that sin was real for a long time. When my God concept fell apart, the whole sin concept fell apart, because I don't think you can have sin without being able to demonstrate that God is real first. Just the same way you can't demonstrate hobbits without demonstrating Lord of the Rings is real. They only exist within the fantasy of Lord of the Rings. And I think sin only exists in the fantasy.
That's a logical fallacy of a false equivalency. Number two is that sin is
you're a Phil bro already, I could tell. Go ahead.
So sin by definition means to miss the mark of perfection.
That's not the primary definition. The primary definition, and I've looked it up, trust me.
That's its Hebrew definition.
The primary definition.
No, that's its Hebrew definition.
Okay. No,
that's its 5,000-year-old definition.
I'm not doing this.
That's a 5,000.
Bye-bye. And if you yap in the chat, I'm blocking you. So I can't wait for you to yap. He can't control himself. He's an unhinged Christian. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, he's going to comment. Oh, he hasn't commented yet. There he is. I lost. But you're the one who just got blocked from my account. So I'd consider you the loser here. I don't run. You can come up here if you want. I'm not going to, one thing I'm not going to do is get my blood pressure up over unhinged, uneducated Christians coming up on my lives. I'm not going to do it. They think they're philosophical wonders of the world, and they start yapping about, that is a philosophical inconsistency of the third barometer of the second law of the thermodynamical thing. Sin isn't real. Prove me wrong. It should be fairly simple for you to disprove me. It should be fairly easy, right, Fudgems? I have a list here. I'm going to go over my list because I created these Word documents with ideas that have come to me over the years. Okay. You need me to stop? Okay. Okay, so the first note I made was that sin requires a lawgiver. Not just a lawgiver, but when I say lawgiver, I don't mean like in Planet of the Apes. I mean lawgiver as in God. Sin contrary to what that guy said, it's a shortcoming of perfection. When you're short of perfection, it's a sin. That is a bullshit definition. You will not find that maybe once in 1,000 dictionary definitions of sin. Every single definition of sin, in the primary definition, it has to involve the transgression against a deity, a divine source of some kind, a God. You cannot sin against your mother. You can't. You can't sin against your husband. You can't sin against your children. You can't sin against even the police officer. You sin against God. We all know what this word means. Christians keep playing this word game where words don't mean words. Sin is a transgression against God. If God says turning left at a green light is a sin, that is a sin. It doesn't have to make sense. God doesn't make sense. God can say shellfish is a sin. That's ridiculous that shellfish is a sin. He could say, I don't want you eating shellfish, in which case he shouldn't have made shellfish, right? How God made unclean, impure animals is beyond me. Why God would make animals that humans and other beasts couldn't eat safely is beyond me. I don't know why God would do something so stupid. But he did, if you believe in God. If you believe in the Abrahamic God. He made animals that were clearly unsafe for consumption. So why put them in the food chain? If an animal or a human's going to die or get sick from eating them, why put them into the food chain? Because you're going to have a child at the seashore saying, I want to eat that shrimp. I'm going to eat it. Oh, gosh. And then the kid unalives because God was stupid enough to make an unclean animal that the kid could reach with his hands and eat. So that I have a segment I'm not doing today. It's called My Way is Better Than Yahweh. And that's one example that came to me just now of how my way is better than Yahweh. I would have, if I were God, if I were the Abrahamic God, I would have made it so that if you're in the food chain, you can be eaten by other animals without harm to you. Like dogs shouldn't die from eating chocolate. I never would have done that. I never would have created a dog's digestive system to make the dog die if it ate chocolate. It's stupid. We've had dogs our entire lives since we were kids. My wife and I have 2 dogs together right now. Our daughter lives with us. She has her dog. My in-laws live with us. They have their dog. And the fact that we have to hide the chocolate like we're hiding the liquor cabinet from a child is ridiculous. I would have saved all that agony and anxiety that a dog owner goes through trying to keep, like when you have kids and they're eating chocolate. Your biggest fear is they're going to hand the candy bar to the dog and the dog's going to die because the toddler didn't know any better. Well, I would have created it so that no food in the food chain, anything even made by humans, would be poisonous to anything or anybody on the planet. So already I'm better than your God. Next. Let's see what else we got here. The fact that your God makes poisonous mushrooms is so fucking stupid. If that doesn't prove to you that God isn't real, I don't know what does. Like, I'm a God, so I'm going to put things in the vegetation that animals will eat and die from and humans will eat and die from. That's a good idea. Let's make poisonous mushrooms. That's a brilliant idea, said God. Said nobody, because this God isn't real, so it doesn't matter. Right? But you believe in a God that sprinkled poisonous vegetation on the ground so that early humans would eat it and die. And even now, if you're not a mycologist, if you're not even a hobbyist mycologist, and you go out I live in the woods, I'm on 5 acres of paradise. But even with all these apps showing you what the mushroom is, and even with somebody hiking with me saying, I promise it's safe, I'm not going to just pluck something off the ground like that if I'm not 100% sure that it's not poisonous, right? So I'm not going to take that chance because God decided to create poisonous mushrooms. He could have made it so every mushroom in the forest was edible. That would have been the smart thing to do. But no, God has to make everything complicated. You're asking to see oxygen, dude. You can't see oxygen. If you had more than a first grade education in science, you would know that. Under low temperatures, freezing temperatures, you can see oxygen. It's blue. I can blow air into a balloon. That's oxygen, so you can see that. We have windmills that power entire cities. That's evidence that there's oxygen in the air, that there's air. There's no evidence for your God. I've given you 4 pieces of evidence for oxygen. You can't give me 1 piece of evidence for God. Other than a feeling. It's a feeling I got. I got a feeling. And I'm looking at the trees out there. That's all I need. That's all I got. Trees and feelings. Let's go to another caller here. Let's go to Open Skies Painted. Are you at least 18 for TikTok purposes, please? Are you at least 18?
Yes.
Okay. And do you believe that sin is real?
Yes, but I just can I ask you the question literally what you were just talking about when you were bringing up God saying that you believe that why did God create chocolate, for example, or why is chocolate harms
Well, God
dogs?
didn't create. I mean, God didn't create anything clearly, but He didn't certainly create chocolate. That you could
Well,
pinpoint the man or woman who created that at one point. Somebody created chocolate. I could look that up right now and find out who that is, probably, or what
well,
ancient civilization or whatever came up with chocolate. But what I guess what I'm saying is there wouldn't be. Maybe chocolate was the dumb example. Mushrooms is a better example because they grow in the natural world.
okay.
There's no chocolate bars that grow in fields, right? So I admit I used a dumb example there. But using a solely natural example, mushrooms are a great example. I should be able to walk into my forest right now, and if I see a mushroom going on the ground, I should be able to bring it back into my kitchen, chop it into my salad, and eat it without fear of dying. And I can't do that because if you believe God created those mushrooms, He decided it was a wise idea to make poisonous mushrooms that look exactly like benign mushrooms, and I can't tell the difference. So He made mushrooms, I guess, on purpose that would kill animals and people. And I think that's
Well,
just a dumb idea.
well, my question to you is, let's say that then let's take God out of the picture. Those things still exist, so they're still quote unquote bad ideas.
Well, no,
So
they're
like,
only ideas if they come from a human or from a mind, right? It's not
well,
whose
what I'm
idea.
saying is,
Well, no,
what
you
I'm,
just said if you take God out of the equation, it's a dumb idea. Whose idea is it if it's not God's?
well,
It,
you're the one that's blaming God for creating something that's dumb, create like
right,
theoretically. But if God doesn't exist, from your
right,
point of view, those things, that mushroom still exists on the field that can harm you.
right,
So,
right. But it's through natural selection. It's through evolution. It's
okay.
through nature. What happened? Oh, oh, I know. I love these doggies. This is a good idea to do it in here.
So natural selection
Okay,
in your
okay,
point.
okay. It's okay. The reason, okay, now that I don't believe in this God, my explanation for mushrooms being poisonous is not that a diabolical God created them. I use that as a hypothetical if I believed in God, but I don't. The reason we have poisonous mushrooms, and I'm not a scientist. If you were to look this up, and if there's a biologist out there, if there's a mycologist out there, I would imagine that the reason why, evolutionarily speaking, there are poisonous mushrooms is because these mushrooms, it's like a survival mechanism for the organism, right? It's like a fish having spikes all around it. It's not that God said, I want to protect this fish from predators, so I'm going to put spikes on it. It's nature evolving it so that a predator is less likely to consume that fish because it's very painful or maybe deadly for the shark to eat the fish that's covered in spines, right? Covered in sharp things. So I think it's an evolutionary characteristic. The reason we have poisonous mushrooms, when you take God out of the equation, unless they were made in a laboratory by a human, like a hybrid mushroom, if they just grow in nature, is because nature decided through natural selection that this mushroom, that it helped it survive. In other words, that this strain of mushroom might be 100,000 years old, and the reason it's 100,000 years old is because it flourished. Because if a chipmunk ate it, it died. If a monkey ate it, it died. If a human ate it, it died. So people realized after a while, through word of mouth, you better not eat that orange polka dotted mushroom. It's bad for you. And then the polka dotted mushroom thrived and continued with its spores and spread. And there's not an intelligence behind it. In other words,
Well, my question is, and I'm very new to your point of view, if I'm being honest, but so I'm very curious.
yeah.
My question would be then, why not show the same like raw emotion that you show? Like, why not show that same emotion to natural selection? Like, man, why did natural selection decide that this mushroom, would be bad for me? Like, why not
Yeah.
show that same emotion to natural selection? Yeah.
Wait. I lost you there. You went from the mushrooms then to emotions.
Well, I'm saying like, why not show the same emotion that you show God for making a mushroom poisonous? Why not
Because there's
show that
no
same emotion to natural selection?
because nature has no emotions. Nature has no agenda in terms of like trying to hurt us. It's not nature trying to be mean that if I go swimming in Southern California waters, I might get torn apart by a shark. It's not like nature saying, I hate those fat, ugly humans like Spencer. So I'm going to put sharks in the water to eat him when he puts his toes in the water. It's just that sharks thrive in that temperature water. They live in those coastal areas. And I happen to be going into its environment and I get eaten by a shark, right? A shark's never going to attack me in my bedroom because this is not the shark's environment. It's my environment. So I guess I don't understand that God's a good, all-loving, all-know. I don't want to get too. We're getting off this topic, which I didn't want to do.
Okay.
I'm only
Yeah,
here for
sure,
another
sure.
few minutes. But listen, I'm enjoying the conversation. God, in order to have like poisonous mushrooms, he had to. If you believe in the mind of a God, he could have made a world without poisonous things. Correct? He could have made a world where cancer didn't enter our bodies. He could have made a world where we could breathe underwater. He could have, you see what I'm saying? He could have made any number of different variables in this world or any other world, correct? He could have made humans with 9 sets of eyes instead of 2. He could have made humans with 4 arms instead of 2. He could have made us walk on our knuckles forever and never evolve. He could have done any number of things. So I guess what I'm saying is if I were God and I could choose a world where I create vegetation that could kill people who I presumably love, I love humans, that's why I created them, I would never sprinkle the world with items that if they ate them, it would kill them. That's all. Right? I mean, like, what reason would God have to create a mushroom that if my child went in my backyard right now and ate it, it would stop breathing inside of 3 minutes? Like, why would God do that?
No, I hear you,
Especially,
but
wait. Especially, no, let me backtrack. Especially in all knowing God, knowing that if I sprinkle poisonous mushrooms on lawns, humans are going to eat them, animals are going to eat them, and they're going to die because of it. Like, why, especially not just a God, but an all knowing God. So God knows that the end result of poisonous mushrooms are people dying. So why create them? Couldn't he have created a world without poisonous mushrooms?
I mean, could have natural selection done the same thing?
But nature doesn't have an agenda. Nature doesn't have. That's silly. That's like saying, could nature have created lightning bolts that when they strike me, they don't unalive me? Nature doesn't. A lightning bolt doesn't know it's hitting a human any more than it's hitting a light post, or it's hitting a squirrel, or it's hitting my automobile. Whether I'm in the automobile or not, it's not thinking like I'm going to strike this item, or this person, or living thing, or. I think you're getting it mixed up. Listen, I appreciate it, but I want to wrap up. You're more than welcome to join us again. I like the calls we're getting. We haven't had any trolls, which is amazing. A few yappers in the chat, but that's expected. Guys, I have a Vimo. My Vimo is Radio Spencer. The more funds I get in there, the more often I can do this. But trust me, my wife would have no problem with me being on here 8 hours a day if I was bringing home the cash, right? So I like doing this. It's my day off. My wife's studying in the other room. I do have to leave in about 10 minutes. I want to be ready before the doorbell rings because then the dogs just get crazy anyway. But anyway, I think we're having a good intellectual conversation. I'm a man of the intellect. I'm a human of the intellect. I like having intellectual conversations. Do I have the answers for everything? Absolutely not. When I was a Christian, I thought I did. The difference, I think, between believers and non-believers is believers think that a book wraps everything up for them. A book written by a bunch of goat herders at a time of 95% illiteracy where they didn't know that they should wash their hands after defecating before making dinner for their kids. That's the world they lived in. They didn't know to wash their hands after they took a big dookie before they prepared the dinner and the meals. They didn't know that. So there's that. All these religions, these world religions have been around for thousands of years. There's no religion there are probably made up religions that came later. All religions are made up. But what I'm saying is there's no religion like you point to, you're going, this religion's been around since 2022, right? No, it's not like 3 years old. These religions are thousands of years old. They were all invented, created, and spread around the world by people that didn't know how their own bodies worked. They didn't know how the planets worked. They didn't understand the heavens. I don't mean the heavens in a religious sense, but the heavens like the skies. They didn't understand the oceans. They didn't understand anything. I mean, these were people who, if somebody was mentally ill, they threw them off a cliff because they thought they were demonic. And that's where you get your morals from. You get your morals from a people at a time where they would throw mentally ill people off of cliffs because they thought demons had infested their brains. Demons had infested their souls. It wasn't that there was mental illness or schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Do you think people in the Bible days understood what bipolar disorder was? Do you think they understood what mental illness was? Do you think they had mental health clinics where mentally ill people could go and not be thrown off cliffs? Do you think they had advocates for people like that? Do you think they had advocates for the mentally ill? These people were so insanely superstitious and ignorant. I won't say unintelligent, because a future race of humans might look at us as unintelligent, that we would elect Donald Trump as president twice, that we would have weapons that could destroy the planet, that we would be affecting our climate, and knowing that we are, and we keep doing it anyway. Future generations will look back at us and say, we're pretty fucking stupid. But I'm not going to say they were stupid. They just didn't know what they didn't know. They only knew what they knew at the time, right? The same way if time travel is a thing 1,000 years from now, we're not time traveling now. I don't think it means we're stupid. It just means we haven't developed time travel yet. And those people hadn't developed cosmology yet. They hadn't developed mental health yet. They hadn't developed healthcare systems. They hadn't developed really anything remotely close to what we have today. Fallen world, genius. Wow. Can you prove a fallen world? Because the Bible tells you it's a fallen world, sweetheart. The Bible tells you it's a fallen world. So it must be, because think about this. God created a world that would fall because a woman ate a fruit. Wow. That's another one where my way's better than Yahweh, sweetheart. If I were God, I wouldn't have created a world that I knew would collapse because a woman ate a fruit that I knew she was going to eat, because I put the animal in there that talked, the only talking animal in the world at that point, to purposefully trick her into eating the fruit, knowing that she was going to say yes to it, knowing mankind would fall. Think how stupid that is. God sitting there in his easy chair, presumably satisfied for some period of time with nothingness. No Christians that argue that God was only around at the time that he created the earth and the planets and everything. So he was around presumably for like eons. And he was totally content with his nothingness. And then one day he says, you know what, I'm going to invent humans because I'm just bored out of my fucking mind. So I'm going to create humans, and I know it's going to lead to their downfall. I know they're all going to be wicked and horrible little entities. And I know that if I put a talking snake in this little garden here, the woman's going to say yes to it because she can't say no to a talking snake. She's going to eat the fruit that I told her not to eat, and all of mankind will be doomed and damned and desecrated and destroyed for the rest of existence. Yeah, I think I'll do that. It's a Monday. I have nothing else to do. So I'm going to create the world knowing it's going to fall apart. And I'm going to put all the cogs in place to spin at just the right speed so that it does fall apart. Cool me. These people are going to be stupid enough to worship me. Watch. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put the pieces in place for their downfall, and they're going to adore me. They're going to worship me. They're going to not only worship me every moment of their breathing life on earth, after they die, they're going to worship me forever. And they're going to just line up in droves to do it. I'm so cool. That's how God's thinking had to have been. He was totally content, presumably. Well, I guess he wasn't, which means he's not a perfect being. A perfect being does not know discontent. If you're a perfect being, every moment of your existence is perfection. So God couldn't have gotten bored being by himself, and that's why he created humans. So Christians can never really explain why God went from non-creator to creator. Like, what pushed him into creator mode? It had to be something that disproves his perfection. Because if his existence was perfect, he wouldn't have needed wicked, horrible, sinful humans to ruin everything for him. Think about it. Do you think God's blood pressure was higher or lower before he invented us, before he created us? Do you think God's blood pressure, if you could measure God's blood pressure with a cuff at the doctor's office, do you think his blood pressure was lower, higher, like more normal range before or after he created the world? I'd argue that his blood pressure was probably more normal before humans got into the picture. So that's another thing that's like, cuckoo, 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 that God would want to raise his own blood pressure, want to agonize himself, antagonize himself, get all aggro when he could have just not made us. There's no real compelling reason God had to make us, right? So if God isn't real, why does chocolate still harm dogs? Natural selection. No, I already explained to you that chocolate is, you have like cacao that is a natural thing, and then the byproduct of that is chocolate. There are no chocolate trees. There's no Hershey's trees, right? So these are things that humans invent. I can make, humans make chlorine. That's made in a laboratory. If you drink that, you'll die from that too. So that's not natural selection. So that's why I stuck to the mushroom example. A God that creates vegetation that can bring harm or death to his creations is either a wicked God An unknowing God, like God didn't know the difference between a poisonous mushroom he just randomly sprinkled mushrooms, and he didn't know that some were poisonous and some weren't. Or he intentionally created mushrooms to poison us. The word sin isn't just for religion, it's also for anything, because that word is no, not really though. Sin, if you look up sin, it's tied directly with religion, whether you like it or not. Sin requires a divine lawgiver. You don't sin against a king. You don't sin against Trump. You don't sin against your neighbor. You sin against a god, whatever god that is. I don't care if it's Zeus. I don't care if it's Poseidon. I don't care if it's Ganesha. I don't care, Vishnu. A sin can only be committed against a god that tells you presumably what you can and cannot do. The land is cursed, dude. Read a little before your opinion ruins you. Read what? The Bible? The Bible that says that all animals were created on the same day? Wow. We know through evolution, dude, and science, dude. One of my biggest, sanest logical arguments against Noah's Ark being a literal story is that we now know now. We didn't know it then. They duped thousands of years worth of humans because we didn't know any better. But now we know better. We know that, for example, zebras were not around at Noah's Ark. They weren't. Zebras are rather new to the timeline of world evolution. If you go ahead and Google it, say, when did the first zebras appear on the earth? It wasn't on day one. It wasn't on the day the animals were created. In order to believe the fairy tale of the Bible is to believe that all animals were put on that ark at the same time in the same event. We know from reality, the world that I choose to live in now. I didn't live in reality for 40 years that I was a Christian. I now live in reality. The world we know now, which is real, clearly stipulates that all animals were not around at the beginning. If you're a Christian and you believe the Bible, and you believe the Bible is inerrant, no mistakes, no contradictions, you have to believe that Noah gathered up multiples of every animal on the earth. And all the pictures show elephants and tigers and zebras and koala bears. And look at all your children's Bibles. Look at all your adult Bibles. They all show two of every animal getting on the ark. We've all seen it. The giraffes. Look up. I'm curious. I'm not in front of my computer, so I can't do it. Google, how long have giraffes been on the earth? And I don't think it's 4.5 billion years. I don't think. I think giraffes probably evolved a lot later than you think. I like this conversation. I'm not agitated. I just talk like this when I'm very passionate about what I'm saying. If cheating is not sin, then what is it? It's a transgression against whoever you're cheating, but it's not a sin. If I cheat against my wife or she cheats against me with another partner and we don't have an open marriage, then that is a transgression against me and my trust of her or her trust of me. If I cheat the tax man, I'm cheating my fellow citizens by not putting the proper amount of money into the system, right? I think big corporations that don't pay their fair share of taxes, they're cheating the system, the very system that is supposed to be serving everybody. So you are cheating. No one's saying that cheating is correct. No one's saying cheating is wrong, not because God says cheating is wrong, but cheating undermines the stability and trustworthiness of a community, a village, a city, a civilization, right? If everyone's backstabbing everybody else all day long, your system's going to fall apart. Your system cannot survive in a system where things operate that way. And then you can either say, we're going to keep operating it this way. Here's a perfect example. I was born and raised in San Francisco. All the Walgreens have pretty much moved out of San Francisco. That's a chain of, started out kind of like pharmacies, but it's kind of general stores now, Walgreens, right? They sell everything from loaves of bread to medicines. In San Francisco, they were getting shoplifted to the point where like the police didn't do anything about it. The shopkeepers didn't do anything about it. You have videos you can look up on YouTube of people taking shopping carts worth of stuff from Walgreens. Homeless people, thieves, they were just walking out. They'd fill up their shopping cart and walk out the door with thousands of dollars worth of stuff, hundreds of dollars worth of stuff. Now Walgreens have closed up shop in San Francisco because if the police weren't going to do anything about it, the laws weren't going to do anything about it, they finally had to pass another law, I think, in San Francisco or California, where it went from a misdemeanor to a felony. Because these thieves know. I work at a jail. Trust me, they know. They know that if stealing $1,000 worth of stuff from Walmart is going to land you in jail, but $997 won't, they know. They've got their calculators out. The smart ones, anyway. They will calculate what they can steal out of the Walmart without ending up in jail or without becoming a felon. They know. So the system is set up where it's not natural selection in the sense that like nature's, it kind of is in a way, but it's economics, right? The Walgreens could not stay open in San Francisco so long as the shopkeepers and the police in the city and the politicians and the supervisors and the state senators and the state representatives would do nothing to protect the stores from thievery. They have no choice at that point but to close down. So that's the byproduct of cheating. Cheating a store by shoplifting means that your community is not going to have a Walmart. It's not going to have a store. The mom and pops are going to close. A mom and pop hardware store is not going to stay in business very long if everyone's stealing the hammers. So they either do something about people stealing the hammers, or they allow people to steal the hammers and they go out of business. Those are your options, really. Your view is like a child in this room saying my dad should get me. Your view is like a child in his room saying my dad should get me McDonald's. I don't even know what that means. Why? Because I expect God to be caring, loving, all-knowing like you pretend that he is? Yeah, I know. I have high expectations for my creator. Absolutely. I have high expectations. Okay, I'm going to go, guys. The doorbell's about to ring, and I am going to go, as promised, right on time, about 10 minutes to 10. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you very much. 6 shares, 10,000. We just hit 10,000 hearts. 33 people watching. I would love a follow. I don't want to be followed by trolls, though. If you don't like me, don't follow me. If you like what I have to say, follow me. I don't want my followers to be a bunch of trolls who are out to get me. It doesn't make sense. Okay? Like the saying goes, like, you know, with friends like that, who needs enemies, right? I want friends on here, not enemies. So if you want to follow me, you want to support me, my Venmo is Radio Spencer. I would appreciate even $1 if you stayed the whole time. $1 for an hour's worth of engagement, it's not too bad. And that will fuel me along, literally and figuratively, to come back again soon. Take care, guys. I appreciate you.